chicken gangster pricks. I'm ready for them today. They come and invade the man cave. I'm gonna scare the shit out of him with this pellet gun. Here they come. I don't know why. As I actually set up the camera, turned around, there was a frickin' rooster standing on the Camaro. A rooster I wouldn't mind actually decapitating. And that was a horse, if you just heard that noise. But anyway, back. Limited on time. I got a few days left before I start my journey up north. I'm going to do the length of this province. And I am going to stop and see people along the way. You know, one person I was just thinking about, there's an outfitter. Somebody who was either outfitter, worked for an outfitter near Dawson Creek, between Dawson Creek and Chetwynd. I'm definitely going to make time to get a hold of you guys this trip. And I have no pressure this trip. I don't have to go hunting. I have other things I want to do. I'm going to be in McBride. I'm going to take the Clearwater route from the mainland up through McBride, Prince George, through the pass, Chetwynd, and Hudson Hope, Fort St. John. But I want to get a hold of the guy. Hopefully I'm going to meet up with those guys who told us a story about the logger who cut that huge cedar tree down, and there's a skeleton inside the hollowed out trunk. Remember that one? And that man, First Nations man, has had a lot of stories shared with us, including the time he was working near Spence's Bridge, sitting on his equipment, broken down in the middle of the night, and that thing jumped on the back of his equipment while he was in it, and he turned on the floodlights just in time to see it at the edge of the timber. But I wouldn't mind hooking up with those guys and possibly having a video session with them on here, all of us together in front of this camera for you guys to listen up. I'm not doing that and see how it goes. But it's tough, like you guys know, it's tough when you're gone away from home and you leave all this or whatever, your family, your homes, and you go on these big road trips. And you do have goals that you have set up to get done, and then you want to try to meet up with other people and make these videos and stuff. And you know, I find with me, usually when it's hunting season, I'm actually absolutely exhausted, I'm done. And then the thought of stopping and seeking someone out, and then I gotta stay somewhere for the night and lose another day, and I got 2 days travel to go home. It's like, oh my God, another time I gotta go home. What I'm saying is hopefully that's not gonna happen this time. And I will be patient enough and slow myself down to relax and take in as much new as I can instead of tunnel visioning on my goals at hand, racing all the way up there to get it done and racing back home again. I was a bunch of ammo in front of me, for wondering what that is. I was going over, trying to decide what I'm going to bring with me. Probably my 12 gauge. It's funny, you guys seen that blue rifle that I have in a lot of the videos. That's my 300 Winchester short magnum. And that is a very powerful rifle round for anybody who's not familiar. And you always hear people talking about 30-06 and 7mm mag that they can pack around all the time and they feel safe with these beings. I'm not a gun guy. I know how to use them, but I'm just not a gun freak. I do have weapons. I have weapons for hunting. I have weapons for self-defense. We'll leave it at that. But I'm just getting all my stuff together. But the number one stopper for all you curious, the number one stopper of a charging grizzly bear is said to be the 12 gauge slug and buckshot, and that's all that is. This is some buckshot. Eight bearings in there, 8 pieces of shot in there, and that really messes up a 1,000-pound grizzly bear. Preferably the solid piece of lead though. But when I load up my shotgun, when I'm doing whatever I'm doing, guiding or looking for something wounded, whatever I'm doing, I'll always put slug, buckshot in there, so you don't really have to be that accurate the whole time. That is considered one of the go-to number one stoppers of a large charging predator. And this is my 300 Winchester short magnum, which will reach out and knock over a moose at a very, very, very far away. And I have another cannon, 300 Ultra Mag. Obviously that's substantially a lot more powder, a lot more power in there. And I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of that no matter what I was. But anyway, I'll probably bring the 12 gauge with me, one of these rifles. So anyway, that's what that's doing there. I didn't have all this here intentionally for this video. and that is a psychopathic pellet gun. This German guy sold me at the Cabela's. I was asking for a powerful pellet gun. He's like, this is the most powerful, deep penetrating pellet gun you can get. It always sounded like a creepy movie character. It's pretty funny. Well, I guess your average 22 rifle short rimfire cartridge shoots, what, 1,100 feet per second? And this nutcase pellet gun shoots 1,600 feet per second. How ridiculous is that? I've shot one of these things as a teenager. But anyway, I'm babbling about stuff that's just kind of boring. Useless to use my time here talking about that shit. Wow. Getting on with a bunch of voices getting heard. And I will be, when I can, I'm going to make videos along the way and post them up on this next journey of mine. Keep everybody in the loop. Man, there's so many emails coming in. It's funny, I had a volley of emails from people saying, you're losing weight, you've lost weight, what's going on, you're looking skinny, you sick? I don't know how many emails I had. I guess the camera must have done something to me, because I'm looking at Sarah this morning, I'm like, am I getting skinny? But I hit the scale this morning. I'm coming in at 210 pounds, which is, I don't like being that heavy myself. And it's funny, for me, I'd go for 120 days guiding at a time previously, and I would never, ever be able to be underneath 197 pounds, ever. We'd always take bets on how much weight we'd lose by the end of the season. We'd everybody weigh each other. We'd all weigh ourselves before we went out and weigh each other at the end, and it wouldn't matter. I could go out there at 215 pounds or whatever, and 215 pounds. Usually I'd go out and do tennis, and I'd always be 196 or 197 every time. So anyways, thanks for the concern. I'm not losing weight. It's just the camera, I guess, does things. I don't know, whatever. Now, here we go. I got new voices coming in. They're coming in rapid fire, non-stop, every day. It's freaking cold in here, man. It snowed yesterday. And right off the bat, I got our true gentleman, George Boone, Dr. George Boone, Psychologist, Perspective Part 2, emailed us again, right? Steve, to answer your question regarding whether I had anyone come in for counseling after seeing these creatures during my academic career, the answer is no. I've had some that needed help after having had UFO experiences, but none that saw Sabe. Your second question as to whether anyone on the psychology staff talked about them and how they dealt with the subject is equally unhelpful, I'm afraid. The subject never came up, or at least not that I'm aware of. However, the question of UFOs did come up occasionally, and they treated UFO experiencers as a bunch of nutcases trying to spread lies. You know, for me, that murders, just for me personally, that kills the credibility of those professionals. Kills it for me. Not all of them, but excuse me, that statements like that fuel me even more so to not give a shit about anybody's academic label ever. Government especially as well. Any government, I got 0 for them. Like I've shared, and I'm not being assaulting or attacking or anybody else. I'm just stating how I feel about this and how I felt about this for many years. I do not give a shit what school you went to, how long you went to school. I don't care. I have sat next to on a remote mountaintop for up to 15 days at a time with every academic title you can think of, every professional you can think of, I've sat on mountains with billionaires, movie celebrities, politicians. I've sat with them all. And it has also probably fueled, obviously it's probably helped me to be where I am today. And it has educated me up. It has convinced me ultimately that the only true people of knowledge, serious, good, real knowledge today, mostly, is the people. And obviously there's going to be academic people that come up with handy medicines. I know that. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about common sense, real, true, caring human beings. I guess what I'm saying is, you know, people go to school for a long time, get that title, but that does not make them any better than any other human being. It just doesn't. I've seen it firsthand. I know that for a fact. And that is why I focus on the people. That is where you are going to get the most and the most helpful and the most honest knowledge on the face of the planet today is from the people. Chicken gangster. Little bastards. All right, sorry. Went on a little bit of a ramble there. The subject never came up, or at least not that I'm aware of. However, the question of UFOs did come up occasionally, and they treated UFO experiencers as a bunch of nutcases trying to spread lies. You could probably expect the same response on Sasquatch topics. However, this is quite a while ago. A lot of new information has come out over the last 15 years, and their outlook may have changed somewhat, although I doubt it. Academics are typically a closed-minded bunch. I hate to say that, but it's true. I ought to know. I speak from the inside of academia. Chicken's going to be in for a surprise in a minute. The question of why I had no one requesting counseling for Sabe encounters is curious. There are two logical conclusions that derive from this fact. The first is that perhaps Sabe encounters are more stigmatizing than UFO experiences, a conclusion that I doubt very much. Excuse me. The second possibility is that for some reason we are seeing far more Sabe encounters today than was seen in the past, and this is the position that I'm inclined to go with. I'm not sure why that would be the case, but the known facts seem to support it. You know what, for me, on that question, I would say I have a feeling the only reason there seems to be more and more, this is just my opinion, is because of the internet. And now we have a way to contact each other around the world at the drop of a button, right? And people are people with groups such as this group here and numerous other ones existing on the internet today. More and more people are becoming brave enough to share what they've seen, and they're realizing they're not crazy and they're not in such a closed-minded, more easily controlled community as was in the past, right? When people only had one radio station, maybe 3 channels. I'm getting ready to shoot the pellet gun in the air. But anyway, sorry. I have a funny feeling it's not there's more of them, it's just more people are talking. I may be wrong. I'm going to add a couple of other thoughts that you might find worth thinking about as well. That's it. Oh! Oh! All right. They don't care about the pellet gun. Shit. Little shitheads. Bastards. I got this pencil in there for me. The question of why government is so dead set on keeping the Sabe's existence a secret. I may be wrong about this, and you can, as you say, take it or leave it. There are numerous reports of the Sabe using extraordinary abilities. Their vision is amazing enough by itself, but I'm sure the government does not see this ability as very threatening. However, they've also been reported to be telepathic, as being able to either see naturally occurring portals of some kind, or actually be able to generate these portals as a means of escape, as being able to become invisible, as being able to phase through solid matter. It is unclear whether only some of the Sabe can do this, or all of them can. By themselves, these abilities would be enough to classify them as a threat. But if these abilities can be learned or taught, and the Sabe would decide to teach these abilities to us humans, that would be enough to absolutely terrify the government. Yes, it would. It would mean these abilities could spread among humans, and they would literally lose all the control over the people that they are supposed to be serving, but instead are intent upon ruling. The government is more afraid of the people, in my opinion, than they are of the Sabe. As a result, they don't want us to know about them, and they sure don't want us interacting with them. Many people that are armed say they don't even think to shoot because the Sabe are so massive and they don't think it would do any good. If these creatures are truly telepathic, they may be implanting this thought in the hunter's mind to ensure that they don't get a shot at it. Although I don't recommend shooting at one, I have no doubt that they could be killed by a firearm. Their actions alone suggest this. I agree. I agree with you, Steve, that the Sabe should be treated with respect as people, but if humans can go off the deep end and kill others, presumably so can Sabe. I'm convinced they can and do too. So, self-defense is a real possibility, although I would agree that a violent encounter is relatively rare. When I was in the military, I had a chief petty officer tell me about a Navy ensign that shot a bear in Alaska. If I recall correctly, it was a polar bear, but the incident was long ago, and I could be wrong about whether it was a polar bear or a brown bear. The ensign was using a 7mm Magnum rifle, and he apparently killed the bear with 3 shots to the head, or in the head area. And the bear still lived long enough to get to the ensign and ripped his head off. From the eyewitness testimony of Sabe encounters, the Sabe is a lot bigger and tougher than a bear. If I were going armed in case of a violent Sabe encounter, the minimum caliber I would carry would be a .44 Magnum in a pistol or a .300 Win Mag in a rifle. If we are unarmed when a Sabe runs into us, they are not threatened because they outclass us in so many ways. They know it, and we do too. If we are armed, they don't know what we will do. Maybe we will shoot, maybe not, but they seem to be much more curious. Again, I wouldn't shoot a Sabe unless either my life or the life of a family member was threatened, but I would apply the same standard to a human being as well. Hope this helps. If you have any other questions, my door is always open. George Boone. George, appreciate your time, man. Absolutely appreciate it. People going out of the way to send emails, man, that's a valuable chunk of time. And it's really, really appreciated, every one of you. And I agree on many points you dropped on the table today, George. You know, along with I can tell you guys dozens of absolutely outrageous stories of large game animals taking shots from all the above cartridges and going for miles. It's all in shot placement, obviously, and you believe me, I've seen people lose their shit. I gotta be Tony. When you're a guide, you have to be Tony Robbins' motivational speaker, like nonstop. You're always trying to keep the person calm. And it's funny, in guiding world, hunter world, so far, and many of my guide friends agree with me, you always get the man in camp and you'll be sitting around the fire holding on to one of his shells and go like this. I'm a one-shot kill. Every time, one-shot kill. 100% of those people lose their shit and empty their guns and rarely even touch the target, and that's a fact. But I've seen some crazy things go on with grizzly bears. They went on for a couple days. Elk, moose, everything. So, what I was getting to is the point I was making was trying to keep people to keep their shit together to make that perfect one-shot kill can be very challenging because they're so excited. Their lifelong dream is right in front of them. They can't handle it. The pressure, the excitement, the adrenaline overload is crazy. So, could you imagine your average human being not even being aware of these things or thinking it was a joke, and there's a 10 to 12 to at times reported even 14-foot tall, fur-covered, muscle-bound, human-like thing standing there staring you down, screaming at you so loud it's literally shaking your jacket against your chest and rattling your rib cage. You realize how much of a cool hand Luke any human being would have to be to make sure that this little chunk of lead right here calmly and confidently strikes that one spot they've chosen on that frickin' real-life monster to drop in his tracks. Or maybe it's running as fast as it can, which has been noted to be, quote, 500 yards in under 30 seconds. Right? But anyway, what am I babbling again? I got coffee in me. Yeah. If these things couldn't be killed by us, they would not be hiding from us. You gotta throw common sense into every topic you talk about, right? Just step back, take a look. How everything's acting, how it reacts, how it carries itself. Obviously, we can kill them. Obviously. Okay, let me get back to the people. I'm a real babble frickin' head this morning, I'll tell you what. I gotta get myself under control. All right, this one's titled, I Was Almost Taken. Hello, Steve, you can use my name if you want. I support all you do and want to say thank you for helping those of us who have had experienced what many consider fantasy. That being said, let me get to my experience. This happened back in '99. My wife and I at the time were living in a place called Forest Falls, California, a small mountain town of about 3,000 residents. At the time, I was working as a youth counselor down the mountain in a town called Redlands. I worked from 2 p.m. to 11 p.m., so I'd normally get home around midnight. This night wasn't any different. I arrived home, my wife was already in bed sleeping. I changed and threw a couple logs in the fire and got ready for bed. Our cabin wasn't big, and I could actually see the fireplace from my side of the bed, and as always, left the door to the bedroom open to let the heat in. I just laid down on the bed and I was watching the fire when suddenly I saw a 3-foot-tall thing step in front of my line of view to the fire. I first thought I was seeing things, so I closed my eyes and opened them again, and it was still there. I tried to sit up, but I was immobilized. I couldn't move or talk, but I could move my head. I turned towards my wife as she was sleeping. As I struggled, another being came through the right side of the wall and another through the left side of the wall, and they came towards the foot of the bed. What? I could now see them clearly, and they were for your typical gray beings with pale skin, very gaunt-looking, long arms, big almond-shaped heads, little holes for ears and nose, and a little slit for a mouth, and big black eyes. One of them came to my side of the bed and noticed he was a little taller than the other two. He spoke to me and he said, "Come with us." I refer to him as he because I perceived it to be male. Now I heard him in my head. I responded and I said, "You do not have permission to be here. I have not invited you into my home." And he responded and said, "Come, we will show you the truth." And at that moment he put his hand over me, but not touching me. And I was instantly lifted off the bed and I began to float towards our big bedroom window. And I said, "No, you don't have permission to do this," and screamed, "Jesus rebukes you. Jesus is God, only He is the truth." He responded and said, "Where is your Jesus now?" "We possess the truth." And I said, "No, you're a liar." And I repeated, "Jesus is my Savior." And I kid you not, the more I repeated, "Jesus is my Savior," the more frustrated they became and released me several times back to my bed. But they tried at least 3 more times, but I kept on repeating, "Jesus rebukes you. Jesus is my Savior." When they finally let me go, he said to me, "This will not be the last time you see us. We will return." And just like they disappeared, the same way they came in. Apparently I was still suspended in the air because I fell on the bed, which made a tremendous sound, and it shook the bed, that my wife woke up startled and asked me what was going on. I explained what had happened to my wife, and she believed me, but warned me to not share this with anyone or they think I was effing nuts. But I truly don't give a rat's ass what anyone thinks that happened. I have other stories to tell you which also occurred on the mountain, but I'll leave that for another time. God bless you, my friend, and know you're always with us because we take you everywhere we go. Peace to you and your wife, and may the truth be your guide, Martin. Martin, that's one hell of a frickin' chunk for anybody to wrap their noggin around hearing it, right? But unfortunately, in a way, these experiences are reported worldwide nonstop. Thousands of them, right? So you got thousands of these stories being told by the people to the people. Now you have the armed forces are releasing acknowledgement of UFOs. They're acknowledging them. Yes, they're real. They're real. And for what many people don't understand is for the entire population to admit, yeah, this shit is real. That means, for me, I don't need anybody to tell me what the F's going on, another human being of authority position. There isn't a human being in a position of so-called authority, whether it be military or government, that I need to tell me anything. I do not give a shit what they say. First off, just so you know, I think I've made that clear. When all the people come together as they have here and they keep on reporting similar stories from around the globe, leaving their names or addresses or phone numbers and contact me, and here's my entire family lineage. Well, you better start listening to them, right? But then when the greasy sons of bitches finally catch up to the people and decide they're going to acknowledge as well, what that should be acknowledging to all of you people who believe that you need to hear it from them is anything is possible. Anything. The fact that crafts come down from up there, from another place, not from here. That's fact. That means anything can show up here that we don't know about. Anything. That also confirms that not one of us can deny anything. Right? Don't you think? Imagine sitting here and saying, okay, well, I believe in UFOs, but I don't believe in Sasquatch. Oh my good God. That'd be like saying, you know, there's the ocean, we pulled a seal out of it. I heard about whales, but I don't believe in whales. Whatever, right? I'm babbling. I'm sure a handful of you might be picking up what I'm trying to put down. Sometimes my mouth and my brain don't mesh up too smoothly. Anyway, thanks for sending that in, man. Yeah, I do not envy anyone who has to go through that experience. And I've listened to interviews with that guy. What's it called? Fire in the Sky, that interview of that man, the logger who was taken. That poor son of a bitch. You imagine that? I'm sure more is going to come out. And the fact that you shared that story and I shared it for all the people here, somebody is probably going to have something similar to share without a doubt. Without a doubt. Now, here we go. Here's another one. My encounter at Shaw Air Force Base, South Carolina. Sounds familiar. Hi, Steve. My name is Walter King, and I've been following your channel for almost a year now. And I've enjoyed hearing a variety of experiences that you and other people have had in regards to these beings that obviously share the planet with us. I as well had an experience back in '85 at Shaw Air Force Base in Sumter, South Carolina during my last year of military service. I've been reluctant to share my story though because I can't say for sure what it was that I encountered, as I never got a visual on it, only some sounds that I'll never forget. What finally prompted me to send my encounter in was curiosity if any other people watching this video may have been stationed at this base and had their own experiences with whatever this creature was. It is my hope that they might be willing to share their encounter as well with your channel once they hear my story. I was a member of the Civil Engineering Squadron and was an environmental support specialist at the time. We were responsible for the drinking water, the wastewater treatment services, and systems at the base. Part of my duties on the night of my experience was to go around the base to check the status of the drinking water wells, as well as the wastewater pumping stations scattered around the base. I was working the midnight to 8 a.m. shift and was in a base housing neighborhood area at the time. I can't recall the location on base anymore. I had parked the truck at the service road entrance gate that led down to a wastewater pumping station, approximately a quarter of a mile down a dirt road. I walked down the dark road to the pump station using a flashlight to light my way. The small pump station was surrounded by an 8-foot chain link fence, and the building was lit with one small light mounted on the side of the building. It was located in a low-lying, swampy area of the base, and 3 sides of the fenced enclosure had extremely dense brush right up to the fencing. I unlocked the gate, and as I walked over to enter the building, something right outside the fencing in dense brush, maybe 10 feet from where I was, let out a massive growl. It stopped me in my tracks and filled me with intense fear. My words cannot adequately describe the growl this thing let out. But I could tell whatever made this sound had to be a massive creature. I'm talking something in the 1,000 pounds or more range. Once I got over the initial shock of what I heard, I realized it was just around the corner from the gate I had just unlocked and left open. I immediately closed the gate and thought, oh crap, I gotta go back up a dirt road to get back to the truck, and this thing is probably gonna come after me. The only weapon I have is a small lock blade knife. Shit, I think I read this, you guys. I'm gonna keep going anyway, there's lots of new people here. The creature made no other sounds after its growl, and I couldn't see what it was because the brush is way too dense. As I was trying to think of what to do next, I saw a broken piece of asphalt about a foot wide lying near the entrance to the building and decided I would throw it over the fence where I heard the growl come from. To see it, I could hit the creature and scare it off. I lobbed the asphalt over the fence, and when it hit the ground, the creature started crashing through the dense brush, and I could clearly tell it was running on only 2 legs. I could tell this thing was massive by the way it was plowing through the brush. It made about 6 to 8 foot strides, and then it stopped. It made no other sounds. It was still close by, but I didn't have anything else to throw over the fence to scare it again. After waiting a while and hearing no more sounds, I completed my routine pump station check and decided to make a run for it up the dirt road to the truck, hoping I would live to tell about it. Hands down, that was the most gut-wrenching decision I've ever had to make in my life, leaving the relative safety of that fenced-in enclosure with the potential of being chased by a massive creature just outside of it. Thankfully, my panicked sprint back to the truck was uneventful. Whatever it was never came after me. And thankfully, I didn't trip and fall during my sprint and stab myself with the knife I had in my hand. The next morning at shift change, I told the day shift guys about my experience, and as you can imagine, it was all just a big joke to them. I don't think any of them ever believed my story. I'll be honest with you, Steve, I didn't want to go back down to check this pump station again the next night, but I had to, because we had a log sheet that had to be filled out by each person that visited the pump station to document that we did in fact go into the building and check the equipment. Thankfully, I had no other experiences with this creature again. Thanks for sharing my story with everyone, Steve. Best wishes to you and your family. Okay, man, thanks for sending that. I honestly don't know if I read that on my own or if I shared it previously, but there you go, you guys. Shaw, Air Force Base, South Carolina. All right? So, if you were there and had something alarming happen and you think that sharing your story here with all the people might help somebody, then do it, all right? That's sharemystory.howtohunt.com, okay? This one's titled Edgar, DNA and Evidence. Hello, Steve. Thank you for what you're doing by sharing information, people's stories, and helping spread the truth about the Sabbath. I've been watching your videos for a while now and had to write in. Your conversation with Edgar left me with so many more questions that I already have. This roundtable of knowledge has a lot of learning yet to do. I sincerely appreciate Edgar sharing the information so far and hope we all get to hear the rest of it soon. For now, I hope he enjoys his vacation and his health is doing well. Well, here it goes. My grammar writing skills aren't really good. These are the thoughts and questions that have popped into my head over time. Some from as far back as a child, and some come from the conversation with Edgar you had posted on March 26th. They are in no particular order. The DNA, maternal is human, and paternal is from 4 different beings, known to Edgar and his friends. Now, if this is true, the genetic makeup would likely be unexplainable according to our high school science books. This would rewrite scientists' theory of evolution and change the history books. Yes, it would, and it will. It also means that the blood removed from the Sabe came from the offspring of a human mother. Can Sabe mate with each other and have fertile offspring, or are they like mules and sterile? Can they even have offspring together? Is that why there are so many more adult Sabes seen versus young ones? Is there a correlation with missing female humans and areas where people are seeing young Sabe? How long after some women go missing are their bodies found? Are they being used for reproductive means and discarded? Why is there this big push for sites like Ancestry.com to do DNA testing? I highly doubt it's just to let people know who's related to who. That information is going into a database somewhere. Without a doubt. It's so easy to get people to deliver, isn't it? It is so easy today. You would have to pay me a shit pile of money to give in and submit my DNA to somebody with a .com domain name somewhere. Anyway, sorry. That information is going into a database somewhere. Who's getting it? Who has access to it and why? What are they doing with it? Are they looking for someone? Is there some genetic link they're searching for? Who and what are they? Who or what are they tracing your DNA back to? Lots of questions, I know. Maybe you, Edgar, someone at the round table might have some answers. I have many more questions. God bless you and your family. Stay safe. Biggest question, How can something come from nothing? No shit. That one rips through my brain all the time, especially as an example. I've had that question come up numerous times. I'll be up in the north, wherever, I'll be out in the middle of nowhere. And acres of spruce forest, and all that fluffy moss on the bottom and green vegetation everywhere. And then bam, all of a sudden here's a 12, 15, 1,800 pound bull moose standing there, or even a 1,000 pound grizzly bear. And there it is, just standing there in the forest. And I've had that same question, how the hell? Like, how the hell can this thing just be? Just like that. You know? How can we be? How can anything be? The questions you have when you're alone on a mountain will tell you. You're daydreaming, wondering out loud, and you've already shunned what you've been told from the so-called people of authority. They can all kiss my ass. We're learning, though. The questions are going to be answered. As long as we keep doing this, I feel the questions will be answered by the people, to the people. This is the only way. This is the only way to get real, true, helpful knowledge about our real existence and this real world. Here comes a chicken gangster, silently stalking me. Get out of here! Not scared of me. All right. Let's keep going. The questions will be answered again. Edgar, I was going to mention Edgar today. Quite sure they've done their holiday, but I just don't feel like bugging him right away. He's probably still reveling in all the good and the relaxation and the sunshine he absorbed there. I'm sure he'll be in touch with us on his own time when he decides the time's right, and his colleagues. All right, my release and share is the title of this one. Steve, you can use my name. It's Keith. Okay, Keith, I got you, man. I've been following your channel and the various experiences you share with everyone for several months now. You're the most honest fellow for people's stories without a shred of ridicule. Really, I want you to know that you're a true supporter of souls for sharing and posting the most horrid experiences that deal with the rather unexplained. And it's compelled me to share through you. Thank you. All right, thank you for these kind words, man. And like I said before, it's all of us as a group doing this. And people like you. That's why this is here, and that's why it's going the way it is. I had an experience in '91 from little-known Meigs, County, Ohio. I've also come to realize that this experience that I've shared with no single person for 30 years may actually be related to these beings that I've become more aware of now and start to seriously consider. I grew up in simple times, the late 70s through the early 90s, on a small hobby farm of 50 acres in southeast Ohio, not far from the Ohio River. I think I'm a rather rational person that has been able to explain or justify many odd experiences over the years, but this experience was locked in my mind for many years now, so this email is unlocking it. It was the week after Thanksgiving in Ohio, which meant whitetail hunting. Our 50-acre farm bordered larger farms that have given permission to hunt with a simple phone call every time. This allowed me to roam about 500 acres of land in the crazy pursuit of white-tailed monsters for years. I was a senior in high school at the time and always spent as much time as possible scouting most of the year leading up to the season. My preferred method of take was a Winchester 20-gauge pump shooting, old school Foster slugs, not the best. However, it was a legal, effective weapon out to 50 yards that took many deer for years as a gift from my dad, passed in 2017. Deer season was Monday morning through Saturday, 6 days, and I tried every evening after school. It was the final day and I was feeling the need to take a deer to make my effort count. Call it a meal deer. My strategy was to set up on the neighbor's fence line to hopefully catch the group of Hey! Out! Get out! One more. Get! I drop it off at the porch at a KFC. My strategy was to set up on the neighbor's fence line to hopefully catch the group of does that always bed in there during the day. It was 3:30 in the afternoon when I set upon the opposite side of a hollow with a direct line to a clearing at 30 yards. Perfect, I thought. Back in a minute. I guess the pellet gun's more effective using pellets, right? All right, where were we? I was blessed with a string of 5 does coming out at a time from the fence line. Instead, I chose the largest mature doe right behind her shoulder. I pulled the trigger, thinking all was good, but my round did not drop her like I thought it would. She got up quickly and ran back the way she came through the fence with the other does scattering. I waited for about 10 minutes and walked over to that area. Blood, lots of it. I was feeling good about a short tracking, but this is where things got totally bizarre for me over the next 2 or 3 hours. The trail was easy to follow, with lots of sign and a clear indication that I would find my doe. I quickly tracked her for about 60 yards to an area that was clearly the last place the poor doe was, but there was no deer to be found anywhere. What struck me was the amount of blood in that 8-foot area all over the ground and leaf litter, certainly not far away. I searched in circles around that area until finally picking up a small amount of blood at 2 feet up a tree trunk. I thought it unusual at the time that a 10-yard circle would not produce a deer, but I also knew that whitetails can actually have 9 lives like a cat. At this point, I was feeling bad about my shot placement for the sake of a quick kill. I followed the trail, noting that the blood was actually along tree trunks instead of the signs and the leaves on the ground. Unusual. At this point, it was about an hour after pulling the trigger with darkness falling. I trailed another 100 yards up to the West Virginia pulp and paper property boundary to find blood on the top fence, wire, and post. I pulled out my small flashlight to help guide me at this point with very little light left. I was amazed at the time that a wounded deer would clear that fence. She wanted to live. This property was new territory for me, but I had to find that doe for sure. I followed through some very thick brush for several yards and approached a large white oak, not 30 yards beyond the fence, that had less brush around it. As I stood up, fully to survey, I felt very uncomfortable instantly and swept side to side with the light. To this day, I can remember the weakness in my knees and the instant fear that made my feet feel stuck in place, meaning something was not right from a sixth sense. I noticed blood on the tree with the light showing more up the trunk. I can remember my eyes following up the trunk with immediate disbelief. In the fork of this white oak, at 15 to 20 feet up, was my deer. She was right there with her hind half toward me. There was fresh blood on the oak bark all the way up with a million questions flooding my mind. I was without explanation at this point and was staring at the situation while a ringing started in my head. This area in Ohio does not have large cats or black bears that may stash my doe, so my brain was on pause. A second wave of fear came over me as I realized I was not alone. There was something just beyond and to the left of this large oak. With all of my might from fear paralysis, I panned the light to the left to see the outline of something large and dark in color through a thick patch of multifloral rose bushes. After 30 seconds of no movement and a small amount of courage to scare off this bear, I said, "Hey!" directly toward this outline, hoping to see my first one. The outline acted startled and slowly started moving away from me and standing up at the same time to find that I was looking at something over 8 feet tall. No sound. At this point, I was a mess that I almost pissed myself, and as I'm watching this unfold, frozen and fixated with a weak flashlight, I felt vulnerable in that moment like nothing before or since, terrified. After another minute and losing the outline of this thing up the bank and out of the light range, I tore off in the direction I came, tossing the flashlight as I fled. I was never known to be fast in high school, but that night was a running personal best back the way I came to our property. I continued running back to where I sat, still hunting earlier, and picked up my backpack at a brisk pace. I ran the remaining half-mile back to the pole barn just 50 yards from the house without breaking stride. My lungs were on fire, and I could taste my own blood from my lungs with the stress running. Then I sat there recovering with the final release of emotion settling in. I collected myself and realized that I could not explain what just happened over the last half hour. No explanation. And they would not believe me with that feeling when I looked up in the tree and out past to see this thing. Dreadful. Steve, I'd roamed these small hills in this neck of the woods for years, with no explanation at all as to what happened or what I saw. None. I decided to cap it off in that moment and not tell anyone of what happened the last day of deer season 91. My parents both noted something wrong when I got back to the house after dark, so I acted frustrated about losing a possible shot on a deer. I did lose this deer. My mother asked again the next morning before going to church, but I just basically lied about what really happened. I may share with her now. We don't have the kind of critters in Ohio that can do this. And I assumed for the bulk of my adult life that this was a huge bear. Steve, I was terrified in that moment and have tried to justify what this was over the years with more questions. I'm now almost 50. I still have trouble explaining this to myself, only me. It took 2 years for me to get back out chasing deer again after that season, and fortunately I have not had another experience like it. I did return to that same tree in '94 during a daytime walking hunt, just to say to myself that I could do it. After 20 minutes of searching, I did not find that old flashlight After 20 minutes of searching, I did find that flashlight. Old flashlight about 5 yards to the right. Nothing unusual happened, and my confidence came back to me shortly after. Each time I go out at the old farm, I still take note of my senses each time. I now live in Colorado and go back often to meet family and friends with the occasional deer hunt. Writing this email has really had an impact on me and a final release of my experience. Hard to explain. I'm still going through your channel to catch up and change my way of thinking about these possible beings that I strongly consider now. I'm very curious to know if you or any others ever had such experience while hunting. All the very best, Keith. Keith, appreciate you, man. And we got your back. All right? We got your back, no matter what. You have heard similar by now. If you're listening to if you've gotten through a bunch of the videos that are on this channel or other channels, I'm guessing, you're far from the first person to email in losing a game animal that was shot clean to one of these beings. Okay? If you haven't read those experiences yet, trust me, there's dozens of them. I am going to share a story with you guys on that note that I haven't shared before. And what brought it back fresh to mind was recently somebody forwarded me a story of somebody on a boat in the dark in Finlayson Arm, which is in Vancouver Island, Finlayson Arm is salt water. Gold Stream empties into Finlayson Arm. It's not really heavily populated there at all. There is sprinkles of houses along the highway and the Malahat, and there's sprinkles of houses up on this side of the Finlayson Arm, up on the top of the Parliament. And what I can tell all of you with confidence is where I had my experiences. My first experience wasn't too far away from there, and so a couple noted seeing 4 of these beings in the water. One went out of the water and straight up that cliff face in the night. There's a strong chum salmon run that goes into Gold Stream amongst other salmon species. But anyways, what I'm getting at is, I think possibly the same year, or maybe even the next year after I had that thing looking at me, when I was a kid with my bow and arrow in September in the dark, but with that deep blue, crisp skyline. I had a buddy with me, and what we'd do is we'd go up that same road, we'd go up over the top, and then down there looking towards the water, steep down below. And I would either sneak up there in the dark to go bow hunting and try to get this landing. And it was straight down for a long ways down to the ocean down below. And it's all timbered, still is today. And also in Sanish, the Sanish natives would speak about the stick people. They referred to them as the stick people. They were up on the Malahat side of that inlet, and where they would be throwing sticks and logs at the natives years back as they took the canoes across. Same area. Anyway, there's a buck. What happened? It was a long time ago. I used to shoot barebow, and I was a very good shot as a kid. It's just like playing pool. The more you play pool, the more you practice, the better you are. I shot my bow non-stop. Before school, after school, I went to 3D shoots. I shot non-stop. I was very accurate with that bow. And there was a buck moving from my right to left on a semi-trot. I was absolutely confident. Let that arrow fly, drilled him. And he went down and over a cliff and straight down into those cliffs in the timber. And my buddy's with me, the same buddy I brought up there and sat on that rock after that thing was looking at me for comparison. And I'll never forget this, but now that I've been learning more, it's probably something similar with what you just explained in a way. It got too dark. It was getting dark right away. So we left, come back early in the morning for a sight. We're going to track this deer down and go grab it and pack it back up the cliffs. So that buck made it down about, she had good, there's blood all over the place. And he went about, I don't know, from the point of impact, we ran for I could see him, probably ran about 40 yards, and then over the edge he went. And we had to basically rock climb all the way down. We found him down there, and he's dead. But as I was just starting to gut him out, to start packing him up, it sounded like at the time it was somewhat confusing, because especially now today, because I know exactly what all natural predators sound like in British Columbia, it somewhat sounded like a pack of dogs in a way. It was garbled, sounded like a pack of dogs, and at that time there was a problem with wild dogs on Vancouver Island, and wild dogs are more dangerous than any natural wild predator. And it's even the hunting regulations, you're supposed to shoot those suckers on sight. And all I got is a bow and arrow. And I had ran into wild dogs previously when I was a teenager, bow hunting alone on Vancouver Island too. But anyway, so obviously I'm thinking, oh, here comes the wild dogs, oh my God, they're coming. And we're talking straight frickin' down. And these things are coming from the ocean side, down there. I mean, there is nothing down there forever, to the left or to the right for miles. And these things, this sound was coming straight up at us, and it was so terrifying that we both let's get the hell out of here. And we absolutely left that deer so that we could scramble up the cliffs and get the hell out of there before they got to us. And I'll never forget that. I probably should have shared that earlier, but it's never really come to mind. But I have never had a game animal picked up and carried away from me. See, I have not had a successful kill on a game animal be taken from me while tracking it down, not me. But that incident just came to mind, and I thought, what the hell, I'll share with you guys, all right? Did I ever go back down there? Nope. So there you go. But yeah, there is dozens and dozens of experiences of hunters having their kills taken by these beings. Thanks for coming out, man. And thanks for sharing that email, all right? Keep listening to the people, all right? You're gonna learn far more listening to the people than you're not here. All right, I don't know. I think I've been sitting here for a while, haven't I? I got shit I gotta get done, but here's one here. It's not too long. I don't know what it's about. Hello, Steve. I pray you're well, and thank you for your stand in this world. My name is Brian. I'm 53, and I live in Eugene, Oregon. I don't care if you use my name. Excuse me. I'm a Christian, and I've been researching the unexplained since about 17 years old. From the origin of God to UFOs, religion, mythology, the occult, the secret societies, and more. Anything I was told or heard about, I had to know more about it. The last few years I've been studying wild and medicinal plant life and putting it to use, going up in our local foothills and up the Mackenzie Pass, where I would harvest and make tinctures and salves, as well as making homemade wines. I love the wilderness and consider being out there my church. Country boy at heart, and I spend a lot of my life in the woods, fishing, hunting, and camping. And I hope you're sharing that knowledge that you're acquiring with other people when you can, man. It's important. When I was very young, we lived in a single-wide mobile home in a small, out-in-the-woods mobile home park in Woodland, Washington. The back end of our home was butted up to a large horse pasture only feet from the barbed wire fence surrounding the pasture. Other than the small park and the open field, the forest we lived in was very thick all around. One night in early spring in 69, around 11 p.m., my dad was finally going to bed where my mom was already asleep. Their bedroom was at the back end of the trailer, and there was a window directly centered in the middle of the back wall. Dad said before climbing into bed, he began to smell a horrible odor like skunk and rotting meat. As he paused, he saw a large shadow from the outside lamppost go across the window from right to left. Strange thing, he thought, because the head of the shadow nearly reached the top of the window, putting it at about 8.5 to 9 feet tall. He swears it was a Sabbath, and I believe him. Fast forward to mid-February 2021, I headed up to the hills to do some foraging. I found this logging road winding up the mountainside and discovered a side trail to the right that had been blocked off by some rather big boulders. The trail was wide and level, almost like an old road, and led straight back for about 150 yards, perpendicular to a deep valley going down into the spring. Then hooked left at a 90 degree to continue parallel the valley edge for another 150 yards and dead ends. As I was walking to the elbow before the valley ledge, I heard what sounded like two men talking, no more than 20 yards to my right in the woods, but could not make out what they were saying. It sounded like gibberish. Steve, I looked over to say, "How's it going?" expecting to see dudes, but there was no one there. I should have been able to see from my vantage point, and if there was someone there, I should have been able to see from my vantage point, and if there was someone there. I had no fear or terror, but did have the feeling of being watched. I've been back there many times since with no other strange distractions. When I was in my mid-20s, I had a life-changing encounter with God, or should I say, he had an encounter with me. I was at my wit's end, confused and angry, after spending years down so many dark rabbit holes. I want to know the truth about all these beings. I wanted to know the truth about all these beings we're kept from knowing about. Long story short, I was on graveyard shift as a supervisor for a company I worked for. While alone in the lunchroom, massively depressed, Bible open, I begged God for the truth. At that very moment in prayer, God delivered me from something very dark. God literally pulled what felt like a dark mass, a shadow with weight, if you will, out of my body through the soft spot on the top of my head. I felt it pop as it was expelled. Suddenly God spoke to me, not verbal, yet like a download, all the questions I had up till that time, and he answered them. The one I must share is this. He said, all beings, whether on this earth or in heaven, will bow down to his son Jesus. As far as Sabbath in my puzzle, I've heard the Cain theory, which may play a part, I'm not sure. Also Jacob's twin brother, Asu, the red-haired stinky baby that lived literally in the woods, wild, never chose to live in tents or houses, seems more likely, and possibly he does carry Cain's DNA. Or the original Sabbath are the descent of the star people, or sons of God, angels, and they do have supernatural abilities like their fathers. I'm thinking, the more they breed with humans, the more they lose these abilities. Some call them Nephilim indeed. Nephilim, half angel, half whatever. Half angel / human equals Sabbath. I believe they behave just like humans, some good, some bad. Sorry so long, brother. In the Sumerian epics of Gilgamesh battled with a hairy man, Enkidu. Yes, both giants, and were equally skilled and ended up becoming friends. After all of us beings are trapped here together under the firmament. Even though an uncomfortable idea of flat Earth ties in with the big picture overall. As well, CERN's Large Hadron Collider, possibly opening doorways / portholes. Geordie Rose of CERN says they are now summoning these antient ones through doorways. They seem to be what's called piercing the veil between the spiritual and physical realms. The days we live in now is comparable to the days of Noah. In the end, God will bring his giants to fulfill his wrath. Makes me wonder if these Sabbath are preparing for something. Aliens, UFOs, orbs, Sabbath, giants, dogmen, satyrs, flat earth, CERN, etc. These and many more are all pieces of the very large picture that the so-called elite know a lot about. Their main goal is to keep us dumbed down and quiet, and most importantly, to keep their true knowledge of God and his Son from everyone. Just some things I felt led to share. Love what you're doing, Steve. Keep it up. They can't walk on us if we're standing up. If we want the truth, we have to dig for it. If we're not seeking, we're not finding. You're right, Steve. We won't truly understand who the Sabbath are until we figure out who we are. Once we know who we are in the big picture, then it comes together. Thank you for your time, my friend. Have no fear, know Jesus is already won. Be blessed in Christ, Jesus, the truth, puzzle, life. And there we go. And take from that what you will or leave it, right? All right, I gotta move. I'm losing concentration here, and I'm thinking about everything I gotta get done. How to close on this one? First off, keep sharing knowledge. Don't be scared of each other. Don't be scared of the people. Don't be scared of nothing. All right? And if I can, I'm going to try to encourage people as much as I can. I feel it is very, very, very important above anything is for all of you to understand that the mainstream news is used to fuck you up. And that's it. All right? I would bet my life on that fact at this point of the game, and that's why I feel it is absolutely vital and important for me to share with you and suggest to you to drop all mainstream news as fast as you can. Don't ever go back there, and encourage as many people as you can to dump mainstream news. It's a weapon, it's a tool, it's a weapon, and it's being used against all of you. Okay? Please. If you think I'm some nutcase preaching, I'm not. I am sharing the absolute knowledge that I've acquired, and I feel it's very important to share with you, and I urge you all to just dig, just look. Get a hold of your common sense again and let it rule you. Go with your intuition and drop the mainstream news, okay? Just look into it. And if you can, reach out and encourage as many people as you can to drop the mainstream news and to only focus on the people. All right? Focus on the people. It will help everything change for the better across the board faster than any other route, besides getting armed and going out and lopping the heads off of all the dirty bastards, right? I feel that is possibly step number one to making sure that every single human being has the equal opportunity at a fun, happy lifetime. You have to annihilate that weapon first. There you go. I think that might have been the last of my caffeine. All right, here I go. Onward and upward. I'll be back. Nobody's going to stop me ever. If I get stopped off this platform here, I'll crack open 10 more somewhere else. All right? And that is that. I hope everybody's having a great Easter weekend. Get out there in the real world. I'll see you all shortly.